Hello everyone, Hyper here. In this video, I will show you a DPS comparison between the top two Frost DK builds on the PTR, and talk a little bit about which one will see more use. I won't be explaining my rotation, but I will talk about some legendary choices and which situation favors which build better. First up, we have the machine gun build. Now here we will be using RA with Murderous Efficiency, Ice Cap, Gathering Storm, and Obliteration. This is the best combination I've found, and then for legendaries, I'm using the chest and the bracers. I also did testing with bracers and the belt, along with 4-piece, 2-piece, and other combinations, but this just seems best. I'm using the new tier 4-piece, along with the two Tumo Sargeras trinkets. Let's just get started with this. So we go in. This build has very nice burst and consistent damage. I found that it's very fluid to play and there's always some button to press. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of shinies, which is what you're supposed to be pressing. Now with the PTR lag, it was a little bit noticeable because the global cooldown for me was extremely short since I have high haste, especially during the burst phase. I was having kind of an issue keeping up with the rotation. But after a few tries, it became pretty fluid to play and I really like it. It definitely slows down a little bit once Bloodlust runs out, but you still always have something to press. And overall, it did very consistent damage, and I really enjoyed playing it. I did quite a bit of testing uh, with a few different talent setups. I also did some sims since they updated the PTR build for it, just to see kind of what I should be using. First, my initial thought was use belt and bracers along with 2-piece, 4-piece, just to get that empowered pillar. But it turns out that the chest is actually a more significant DPS increase over the belt and the bracers. So I ended up using just the chest and the bracers, which is really nice because it makes our burst extremely good. Now, another thing that is really nice with this build is Ice Cap. Well, we're able to take Ice Cap, and if you're using the chest legendary with the empowered chains of ice, it lines up perfectly with Pillar of Frost. So every pillar you'll be able to chains. That's about when the 20 stacks charge up. And also here I'm using the trinket from Tumo Sargeras from Kil'jaeden, the Spectre, which is on a 1-minute cooldown also, and or on a 45-second cooldown, sorry. And this also lines up with Pillar of Frost pretty nice. This build was actually a really nice single target. Now AoE, it might fall slightly behind other build. And for AoE, I did a little bit of testing because it's a little more difficult to do AoE testing. But I found that Avalanche and Ice Cap were fairly similar. Avalanche was a little bit better for extended AoE on 3+ targets, but not that much better. And Ice Cap just makes our cooldowns line up nicer. As for Freezing Fog, it did get a nerf this patch, and I don't think it'll be used. Even on 3-target AoE, I found that Murderous Efficiency was better than Freezing Fog. So I'm pretty sure we'll be sticking with that even in the future. Maybe for heavy AoE, where you're hitting 4 or 5+ targets constantly, Freezing Fog might be better, but for now, I would stick to Murderous Efficiency. Our second best build is Breath of Sindragosa, and we'll be using RA, Horn of Winter, Avalanche, Gathering Storm, and Breath of Sindragosa, along with the chest and belt legendaries, the 4-piece, and Convergence of Fate. Now, this build is definitely changed from what you see on live, because Blizzard is trying to move away from DKs having to rely on extremely long Breath of Sindragosa uptime in order to do competitive DPS. So they reduced the time we're able to keep breath up with removing the synergy with Hungering Rune Weapon and other talents. And they're trying to pack more damage into it during a shorter duration. So on the PTR during the testing, I was able to hold it up anywhere between 25 to 40 seconds at max. But on average, I would say 30 to 35 seconds is what you should be looking at for Breath of Sindragosa. And as for the other build, I did quite a few different tests with different legendary setups and talent setups, and I found that even though initially I thought the belt and the ring would be the best combo for legendaries, I found out that that's not true simply because with the removal of Hungering Rune Weapon from this build, since we're not able to take both talents in the last row, we just don't get enough benefit from Empowered Rune Weapon in order to justify using the ring to get 2 charges. It will extend our Breath of Sindragosa by about 5 seconds, but it's just not worth it because we would lose out on a legendary that gives us much more DPS. And that is the chest, obviously. So using the chest along with the belt was the best combo when I did testing. Now for AoE, it might be that the bracers are better. I didn't do too much AoE testing with this build, but it does seem that single target, it's slightly behind the machine gun build. I would, by slightly, I mean about 100k DPS, maybe even more on longer fights. And for AoE, it wasn't competitive. I simmed this and the machine gun build, and I also did very little testing. I hit the triple dummies a few times for 2-3 minutes just to see how it compares. And Breath of Sindragosa did pull ahead of the machine gun build slightly. I don't have that footage included here, but I would still use Breath of Sindragosa for AoE fights or any heavy cleave fights or council style fights, probably in the future, and then go with the machine gun build for any single target fights where there's just a little bit of AoE here and there. Like most fights are in the raids, where some ads spawn and you just have to switch to them, rather than having constant 3 targets to hit. Because even though Breath of Sindragosa did pull ahead for AoE, it was on a constant 3 targets. So, that doesn't usually happen throughout the raid. As for Frost versus Unholy, which one's going to be better? I have no idea. If you ask me that in the comments, I'm probably not even going to answer, because there's just no way to know until about the week before the patch or the week the patch comes out, and we'll see the first logs of people playing both specs with their current gear. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.